Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello and welcome. This is Sue Minahan, and I'm host of Talk Cosmos. Today is the 15th of December. We're right approaching our holiday season, and we have a special, kind of like a forecast. I steer away from that because we just look at the themes. What's the energy that we're all experiencing? And for this year, coming up, there's a bridge. There often could be, but it's really like a flow going from 24 into 25. And so I will have 3 of these in totally different respects. This one is really looking at the various planets. Next year is going to bring in a flush of the outer planets, all changing the dimensions, the archetypes of what they're really concerned about. I want to thank our Southern station for bringing us in. I thank our Northern station for always hosting us as well. That's why we have a week, because they're broadcast at 2 different days, but yet it's all in the season. Okay, we are now ready for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Hi, Liz. It's great to see you.
Hi, Sue. It's great to be back and talking about some special focuses for the year.
There's
a lot going on.
There is. And I wanted to let our audience know Justin has a new capacity. He's busy today, much to his regret and ours. However, he won't be joining us. And interestingly, Liz was the very first person I had 8 years ago, because next year is going to be our 8th season. So here we are again. Now that started in the month of Aries, and I think that's a significant energy happening this coming year, and we'll discuss that as we go. But I'm just thinking of the parallels. And 8 is also a Venus. I mean, it's a synodic cycle. There's so many cycles as we're repeating.
Yes, and the rewards, and 8's a powerful number to success and rewards of the efforts we've put in.
I like that. I am a number 8, which we will get to because we have birth numbers. Here you can get a hold of Liz, often known as Elizabeth, and it's alightpath.com. And her email is liz@alightpath.com. Myself, talkcosmos.com, info@talkcosmos. And you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, radio stations, podcasts. YouTube is a good way. Let's talk about the numerology. It's 2025. It adds up to a 9.
Yes, a year of endings and completions, tying up all those loose ends so that we have space to prepare for the following year of 2026 of new beginnings. It's very compassionate. So this is kind of exciting. And, there's going to be some other correspondences to the number 9 that we'll talk about a little later on in the show.
What I find fascinating is this emphasis on clearing to open space. Because I often think we've closed it. What do you do when you close something? You might file it away and leave it, but it's taking up space. Here, it's really clearing the deck to begin again. It's like 9 is the total number. We're going to go to 1.
Yes, that whole cycle of 1 through 9. It's amazing.
Yes. Now, if
go ahead.
Well, I was just
Here's an example. How do you find your personal year for your birth date? Well, you're going to add the month and the day together and reduce it to a single digit, and then add the number from the yearly calendar. And we have an example of a baby born on April 3rd of 2024. But to get your yearly number, you just need the month and day. So the month for April is a 4, the day is a 3, and that adds up to a 7. And then you add it to the year number for 2025, which is a 9. So 9 plus 7 is 16, and it reduces down to a 7. So this example, and hopefully that'll help any of those that don't know how to find their personal year number, find their personal year number.
I know that the 3 of us worked on this and adjusted it. And I have a question, because I also have done my own numerology for many, many years. And what we're talking about is your personal year. So in other words, it's not your birth. It's for this year what it would be. It's not what you were born with. So in this year, this little baby is in a 9 year, finishing it up. It's not where folks, she was like, because last year when she was born, it's a little bit here, it would have been an 8 year, because she is an 8. In other words, this baby is an 8. That's her personal.
No, it would be a 6. Because 4 and 3 is 7 plus 8 is a 15, reduces down to 6. So last year, or
that's what I meant. Yeah, I'm going for. Yeah. Thank you. I was looking at the wrong number. Yeah, she would be a 6. So, okay.
And that child will always have that 6 vibration her whole entire life, but each year you work through.
She goes through the cycle. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's how I follow, and I know it. It was just because goody. I hope that's as clear as glass for people. Not this, Mars is, we're talking about the transition here. This is the 15th of the month, and we're moving ahead a couple of weeks through the season into 2025. And Mars, when it retrogrades, stays for months in retrograde motion, apparent from Earth. It doesn't actually go backwards, but the way we view it astronomically. And at the same time, what it's shadow path, because it extends over a period of 7 months. So it's a very strong influence, reflecting a mirror from cosmology to Earth experience here that we have. That's why we're bringing this up. And not only is it retrograde, but it's opposite Pluto that just changed signs. It started last year in 2023 when Pluto first stepped into Aquarius, but then it left after 2 months. So just a few weeks ago, on the 19th of November, Pluto actually went into Aquarius. But a little prior to then, just before it did, on the 3rd, it was exactly opposite. But interestingly, it's going to be in 2 different signs than what this coming year brings. Do you want to talk about that?
The Mars retrograde cycle, if you count the pre-shadow and the post-shadow, that November 3rd was the first Mars opposite Pluto, and that was in Cancer and Capricorn. And there'll be 2 more through this Mars phase, because the whole cycle with the pre and post shadow goes until May 2nd. So the second hit, as you may say, is January 3rd with Mars retrograde. And opposite Pluto in Aquarius, and then April 26th, Mars will be direct, and there's another opposition with Mars and Pluto. So it's activating this cycle. So you have time from which began in November 3rd through...
Actually, before that, if I may say, it was back in October. The 17 degrees Cancer was even before this. So, yeah.
But this cycle of Mars opposite Pluto, it's like you have whatever the lesson is or the energy to move you forward, you have time to accomplish that. And, Mars retrograde goes retrograde about every 2 years. So we could say that we're in the cycle. Are we completing the last Mars retrograde or are we going to start the new? So I would say when Mars goes direct, we're starting a new Mars cycle in our life for the next 2 years. But
it's a tremendous time. Yes, tremendous time to really reflect. I know I have been. I'm sure you have been. There's so many elements here. And we bring it up too because Pluto is representing our transformation. And it's in air coming up. So it's going to be more mental than it is form. It's very different. And in Leo, it's what has to do with our ego rather than our moon, our Cancer, that has to do with our emotional outlook. So it's a huge, paradigm shift that we're moving into.
Well, and that first one was at 29 degrees. So that's an anaretic degree. So it could have possibly shown us some things that it's time to finish off, to move forward with this and maybe change what we're doing. And it's like maybe clean out the garage, maybe clean up some of our relationship habits that maybe aren't the healthiest for us, perhaps. And those are just some suggestions with that.
Beautiful ideas. So Mars is a dispositor of two of the outer planets that are entering Aries. Those will be at different times, but all the outer planets are moving into new archetypal energies. And Neptune will be the first. That's in March. We'll review this later, but I'm just specifying this a little bit. And then Saturn will be in May, both going into Aries for a period of time this year, because again, like Pluto, they enter and then they go, they leave. But as far as the retrograde that Liz has wonderfully spoken of, that's going to be from the 1st of January, right on the New Year's Day, all the way through the spring equinox to April 7th, which happens to be the actual day that I started Talk Cosmos in 2018. And it will be...
Well, and Mars is out of bound through that period. And so keep a check on Mars in a negative aspect. Like if you anger quickly, it's like take a time out and process it and then react. Because Mars is out of the bounds of the sun. So Mars is acting on its own energy. And so sometimes can be a different energy or a little erratic, and the out of bounds occurs. And when Mars is retrograde, it's when it's closest to Earth.
And it's outside the path of the sun. Absolutely. And Mars doesn't want to necessarily get angry. It's just that it is an impetus, instinctive energy that just moves. And therefore the desire is so strong to manifest that you can bump into people, or else maybe the other things working around it just aren't quick enough. And it takes patience. And that isn't always part of the cycle. I mean, part of the picture. So that's what we mean by, just to, bridge off what Liz is talking about. But most interestingly, once it goes back into, because it will go, and last week I did Mars retrograde with Leslie Francis and Laura Tad with Planet Buzz. So listen to that and we'll really go into it more. But here we're just bridging the fact that we are living with this energy. And as Liz says, to be extra careful about how we pursue those changes in our action. But Mars is, for the rest of the year, going to go all the way through the entire zodiac in 2025 from Cancer to Capricorn. So it will move pretty quickly like it does. We'll have lots of time to keep looking at different ways of manifesting those dreams.
Well, and Mars doesn't, patience isn't its best quality. And I would say with Mars retrograde, possibly you feel like you need to really hurry up and get something done, but it's not going to happen as quickly as possibly you want it to happen. So just keep at it, and it'll happen. And to reiterate that Mars travels through half of the zodiac from Cancer to Capricorn this year. So because it takes
exactly
about 2 years to go around the whole zodiac.
No, you're right. I had just said that. That's right. I think what's so beautiful about that whole energy with Mars, which we will see with many of the other planets, is this dialogue, this whole dance between fire and water. That is how life began. It is often thought down in the ocean with the volcanic lava coming up and bridging. You look at even metaphysically the oxygen and the way that it evaporates and it forms, the atoms. But here we have fire and water. So really to go along to support the conversation with what Liz has said and myself is that the Cancer thought is the emotional of our water and purifying, and the fire allows it to inspire and manifest into what the ego wants. But then it may go back to the water, reviewing, did I step too far? Was that really meaningful? How does that work safety-wise for me? There's so many ideas. Go ahead with your viewpoints on the whole.
Right, and ending 2024 and going into 2025 through, it's a little farther than May because Mars will be in fire in Aries for quite a long time. So the beginning, the first of the year, we have this energy of going from the water, the emotional, to the fire. And I like what you said about the inspiration and the passion. And we also have Saturn and Neptune dancing between the later degrees of Pisces, which is a water sign, into Aries, which
we'll do all those. We'll get to that.
Aries is a world point. So it's going to be a repeat theme over most of the year.
Thank you. Yes. We're not really looking at charts in this. We have such a wide spread. However, the nodes, 18-month cycle, they're lunar nodes where the moon and the sun's orbital path cross, and one goes north and one goes south. In Vedic, it's Ketu and Rahu, just for those that might be familiar with that, and that's how you reference it. For us, it's going to be north and south nodes. And they go backwards in other words, they go along with the primal motion, the primary motion of Earth as it spins west to east, instead of just as astronomy speaking. So therefore, we're moving. And this slide, this was a collaboration of several of us, but when you do your solar fire, it didn't show, it was just on the bare moments of the North Node going into Pisces. Unfortunately, this says Aries, but that is the idea that at this point on January 11th, 2025, and this happens to be Eastern time at 6:01 in the evening, the nodes will be going into the next axis, which will be Pisces and Aries. And we'll talk about that. I mean, Pisces and Virgo, totally different than the previous archetype. And we'll talk about archetypal, what that means, with the next slide. But just looking at this slide, there's a couple of factors that Liz is going to mention about this Eastern chart. Because remember, this is not a world chart. This is an East Coast chart because we're in the United States and it's a powerful year still, changing of presidencies and different factors that we're involved with. Go ahead.
Well, and no matter where you're at in the world, natural Lilith is going to be opposite Chiron. And to me, that's like some of the injustices or hurts that you've had. It's like it's time to look at those and do some healing or share with others what you've learned from those experiences. And then on this chart for the East Coast of the United States, Mars is on the ascendant, and that rules the MC or the midheaven. And then Mars here is within orb of being opposite Pluto, and Pluto's on the descendant. So, about the transformation and Mars being opposite Pluto, that's in effect for quite a few months. So to me, it's like Mars is pushing us to make the transformation in our lives that are healthy for us. And the nodes are like a destiny point. And so how can that change? You know, Pisces is about spirituality, and Virgo is about discerning it. It's, you know.
Let's go into that next.
Okay.
Liz. We've got another phrase. Phrase and phase, right? I mean, slide, whatever you want to call it. Yes, this is all very true. And remember, folks, Mars, action, the universe loves action. Remember, it's evolution. It is one step to the next. On a personal basis, we just take a little step. It shifts the change, and it means it can grow. So remember that. You just choose a little step, move on. Let's talk about this archetypally, because it is enormous. And I'm sorry again for my slides. The nodes will be going from, and I keep getting it blocked. Can you read? It goes from
Aries to Libra.
It goes January, the dates. Can you just read the dates?
Oh, January 11th through July 26th of 2026.
Oh, okay. If I change it here, it's just very good. Yeah, we've been coming from relationships for the longest period of time, because prior to that, it was Taurus and Scorpio. Those are relationships with money and possessions and our resources, our self, with our survival, and how that works in exchanging with Scorpionic works with other people, resources. But now, and then it went to Aries, which is identity, self, Aries, and looking at that to complement with other partnerships of Libra. So this is a vastly different archetype of Virgo as a south node that wants to fix, in control, prune, you might say. And Pisces is of the wild, of the nature that says it's all flowing, let it go.
Well, and here's another example of how the North Node shifted from fire to water. So this is another reiteration of that, even though the other ones are shifting from water to fire, but it's like we're continuing that theme. And then with the North Node in Pisces, it's about spirituality. It can be about addiction. It can be dreams and visions. So I'm going to say it's important for us to feed our South Node so that the South Node can move to the North Node. So feeding that South Node, it might be some kind
Virgo.
of new,
a
Virgo, some kind of new health routine. And it's really interesting because about a couple weeks ago, I ordered a treadmill that fits under my desk, and I wasn't even thinking of this. And then it's like, oh, it dawned on me. Okay, I need to feed the South Node of Virgo, which I have the opposite nodes, nodal axis. And so it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And, maybe it's a good time to change your eating habits, your exercise habits, drinking more water, reducing the amount of sugar, reducing whatever, eliminate something to improve. And if you have health issues, it might be like a really good time to start addressing those. And then as you feed that, you can work towards the North Node of having some new dreams and inspirations, art, music.
Yes, music is huge. Very inspiring just to listen to it too.
Yeah, integrate that into your life. But the nodes is, kind of, I call it a destiny shift.
Absolutely. It is the integration point that's polar opposite of what has been familiar to us. There's many different theories, but with evolutionary, that we've come from. So we have in this world on a large scale, that's what we call progress. Cities create new homes, and they take away the wildlife areas so that the bears, like in Scottsdale and Phoenix, come down into the neighborhoods searching for water and food because their habitat has left. I think also this is on a world basis very important to look obviously at our oceans, all the water. It is oceans, because we know that there's, however you look at it, that the world is changing. The ice caps are dramatically melting, and we have a lot of pollution. That would be a good thing for Virgo, to work with Pisces to really correct the plastic in the oceans. They say the size of Texas there. And every animal and fish, just to have a somber note here of reality, not to bring you down too much, has a little plastic in it. So it's time. There's so many ways that we could adjust our consciousness. And there are groups for ocean with the letter 4, or the number 4 rather, and ocean is out there with several boats taking that plastic and repurposing it and selling it, for instance, or people cleaning up the rivers. There's many, many ways. Or it could be also, I wonder to myself on a very brilliant way, maybe communication, Liz, is going to be quite different, because the Piscean way is through music and through film a lot. And so if you look at movies, here it could be, and I think with the fact of Neptune going in, it's going to be in Pisces, that possibly films might open up our consciousness and our spiritual thinking and the ways of how we operate, changing our lives. It's not always simple to go, oh, what are we going to do about plastic? Because we don't manufacture the drinking glass, the water, and all these other things. But it is collective. Let's look at it that way too. We're working as one.
Well, yes, and the pollution of the water, I like how you talked about that. And it could be even, pay attention to the drinking water that you're consuming. Is it time to get a water filter, perhaps, so that I have Virgo better health?
Excellent.
In a very simple way. And, I would say Virgo is about food too. So how do we feed the world? How are we going to feed the world?
Hydroponics. Mm-hmm. Okay. We are going to come right back with Liz, Elizabeth Muschett, and myself, Sue Minahan. Talk Cosmos. Today is a special focus with this panel, Archetypal Symbols. See ya. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Sagittarius, ruled by the largest of all planets, Jupiter, the Roman god, or Zeus by the ancient Greeks. By leaving a cycle based on power and powerlessness of life and death and regeneration, involving committed relationships, Sagittarius energy finds meaning for an expanded perspective and potential for actualization in their search for truth. As a mutable fire sign depicted by the centaur, Sagittarius is adventurous and seeks the beyond. Sagittarius travels to far places, physically and mentally, to find the truths of life.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, December 15th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your human or animal loved ones on this side or the other, personal awareness coaching and readings with Natasha Venter. Hope you can join us and plan to call call in with your questions for either one of us or a personal reading with Natasha. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Going against the grain has never been this much fun. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi again. Here we are. Yes, Liz can be reached at lightpath.com, myself at Talk Cosmos. Liz has her YouTube. Tell us just a little bit about this. Can't hear you, Liz.
Oh,
there
now
you go.
Can you hear
go
me?
Ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I do podcasts throughout the month. I do 2 or 3 with Justin, the monthly astrology forecast, a full moon forecast, and we've been working on a Chiron asteroid series. And then I have a panel of the astrology star sisters, and we do the dwarf planets, planet stationing, decans using astrology and tarot, fixed stars, and a new one, Uranian astrology, that's going to start in February. So I've been keeping busy, and I also do consultations in person or on Zoom, and I also have a newsletter. So subscribe to my newsletter, YouTube channel, etc.
Okay. And here for Talk Cosmos last week was Mars retrograde. And actually it was action, reaction, hyphen action with Liz. So that was very powerful to get an idea about what we've talked about it in depth. Next week is going to be the winter solstice vibrations, and that is a whole vibrational astrology viewpoint of how the entire winter season is going to be. Always illuminative with really precise, beautiful messages. And at the end of the year, we're shifting things around just a little bit. Astrojam often does our mystery charts, but they too are going to have a 2025 theme with a number of astrologers. And we'll see how that works. It'll be quite fun. So join us. Thank you, everybody, for subscribing to Talk Cosmos. There is either on YouTube, you can keep informed with us, or the newsletter. And this little QR is helpful to find how to do that. Okay, I love this quote, and I'm inserting it now for 2025. It really goes along with the Mars and the Pluto. That's this long energy. Whatever you do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic to it. And this is Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the German writer back in 1749 to the early 1800s. It stands still. Let's talk about Pluto. It's recently, finally entered Aquarius. It's going to stay there. That was on the 19th of November, 2024, all the way till January 19th, 2044. Many years. 20 years.
20 years of going to be Pluto in Aquarius. It's, finished retrograding back into Capricorn. It's like finished that, and it's finally committed to Aquarius and the Aquarius energy, of freedom, evolution, computers. Genius.
Yes. Innovation galore. Yes, on a mental process. It's like those lightning bolts come and sparks the brain cells to flash open the vision, and the minds must remember it and pursue. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, so if you've been contemplating some invention or some new ideas in a field that you have or a new business model, it's like you have the energy behind you to innovate and grow the next 20 years.
With Pluto too, Pluto works on power versus powerlessness. So if something, it's like a barometer. If life isn't empowering, one needs to really introspect to find out what needs to be released, because Pluto is very deep. It wants to dig down and burrow. So although it is mental, here we have the depths and the heavens working together. Heavens as far as Aquarius, it's an air sign. It's a collective sign. So networking, community, that's often going to be a direction that a person will find themselves motivating and perhaps just beginning their own little group. Yeah?
Exactly. Or maybe you haven't found the right group that you fit in with.
That's it. Good. Thank you. That ties that together. Beautiful. There was something else to bring up with. Oh, Aquarius can also be, because it's so sudden, it's so immediate, maybe not so much as Uranus, but still it can be abrupt, and it can bring in, therefore, trauma. We see on a collective scale a lot of trauma. And that can be where using that antidote, as you were saying, Lilith opposite Chiron to bring in healing. Just because there is trauma doesn't, we need, as empathic people, how can you help? You can't live their trauma, but perhaps your experiences can provide some, either be there for the real trauma victim, just be present, or else when asked, provide a little guidance of that little tiny step that they can take to move forward. Kind of like lighting the candle that changes the darkness. Yes.
Well, and getting in touch, maybe you have some things in your life that you've buried deep or put below the surface, and now it's time to, and maybe it's like holding you back. So maybe it's time to deal with those, and you have 20 years to do it. So you don't have to do it overnight. You have plenty of time to work on it.
Rush, Mars, now.
But, maybe it's time to find your power in your freedom. Perhaps, that could be a simple.
Yeah. And what that means, it's a huge transition to go from wanting, desiring, because wanting is like lack and desiring is the fulfillment of it, the promise of having it, to experiencing it without the safeguard of having perhaps the known, because you can enter the unknown. Let's move on to some other archetypes, because we have a number, all of them are happening, and this we're carrying through. That's what we brought it up. Neptune, this is one of the few charts that we did bring in. So Neptune, as far as March, right after the solstice, like a week after, is going to ingress Aries to stay until October, when it dips back a little bit, but then January it goes into Aries to stay.
Yes, and it's these outer planets, Neptune is going to be at the anaretic degree of 29 of endings and change, and finishing things up and moving into the world point, the Aries point. So it's like in water, then it dips its toe into fire, then it goes back into water, then it goes back into water and back into fire. So it's like there's this little dance that's happening. So, there can be the emotional part, but then I'm passionate about this. So how do I move it forward? So, we're going to get kind of a little preview of what that might be, of our dreams changing, our visions changing. How can that grow?
This is 6 months. Yeah, from March until October. And then it only splits away for maybe 2 or 3 months to kind of review things. And then boink, off it goes in 2026. But because this special is about 2025, and Liz and I are bringing up the whole picture, but you're absolutely right. These 6 months are paramount to Neptune in Aries. I know has everybody really exploding with anticipation. What does this mean? The good, the bad, the all. Because Aries we know is identity, and Aries is ruled by Mars, which is naturally instinctive, and Aries is fire. So it means that I would say the freedom, the openness to have the identity on a personal basis, because Aries is quite personal.
Well, and however, what have you been passionate about, and maybe not willing or afraid to move forward or adventure in that direction? Yes. So I would say later in the year or 2026 that you might just get that courage to leap over that.
Beginning it in some dimension, because again, one step leads to the next step. I know with all my manifestation classes I've ever taken, the message is just like a tree. If you're going to, this is always my analogy. I can remember climbing trees. You don't get to the top just jumping up there like super lady. You go one branch at a time. It's strategy. It's like, how do I get here? How do I get there? Oh, how does it feel? Do I still want to do that, etc.? But here, making steps. So it's going to be really an explosive, everybody, it's collective. Neptune doesn't have boundaries. That's the other beautiful part about it. And we haven't experienced this. It's 186 years from one sign to the next sign, I think, with Neptune. Some huge, because it stays 14 years in a sign. So we're talking generally that Neptune in Aries is going to be, for once it gets back there in 2026, staying for a long time. And nobody has experienced Neptune in Aries since back in the 1800s.
Yeah, it's about 165 years ago. So probably nobody alive on this planet.
No.
165 years.
Not yet. We have people 120, but not 160.
Well, and Neptune is about dissolving. So it's like maybe dissolving the old way that you've done it.
Yeah.
And then that fire, it's like, okay, now I can have a new way to do something. And maybe it's been an obstacle. And now that obstacle is burning away.
It might get rid of overwhelm. I mean, because it wants to move forward. Let's look at the next sign, because here we have Saturn. A couple of months later, we have May 24th. Again, this is going to be a shorter time. It's about 5 months, 4 months, something like that. Be June, July, August, September. Yeah, 5 months. Saturn is going, the antithesis of Neptune, it has boundaries. As you had reminded me, Saturn never goes out of bounds. Other planets will stretch outside, especially the moon here for 10 years, going outside the limits, feeling what it wants to feel. But here Saturn, by its very definition, is structure. It's core. It's what's important. And when you put those two together in vibrational astrology, it's spiritual, because it's what's the core. And with Neptune, which is the visionary, the extraordinary vision, that means spiritual. I love to think this.
Well, and I would say with the Neptune and the Saturn, it's like, okay, let's dissolve, and then let's restructure. Let's dissolve, let's restructure. Let's dissolve, let's restructure. So there's going to be a process, and that could just be changing your plan or how you launch something or grow. And yes, spirituality is a big part of that. So,
embracing the spirit, thinking, if I may interject here, what I had meant, and I know you understand clearly, realizing that who we are, yes, we're the funnel, the focus that makes the decisions, but using that esoteric sense of spirit. It might be seeing something on our mind that we see in a book. Oh my goodness, that's right. It's a path. It's something leading us forward. Or a person coming into us saying, replicating an idea that we've had, supporting us. And there's so many ways that spirit speaks. And that's what I'm.
Well, and your intuition can begin to increase. Maybe meditation helps, yoga helps. Just having time out, maybe making the structure, allowing the space so that you can bring that intuition, or through dreams or whatever it might be.
Yes. Well, it'll be exciting to refocus with these planets. And I believe Saturn in Pisces has worked to open us up to the beauty of Saturn, that it really is a manifesting planet that envisions. You just don't climb from the ocean floor up to the mountaintop without having some intent of desire to achieve. And often we overlook that because people get very focused on one portion of it, I think. Yes, I'm just saying expand. Yeah,
well, and Saturn can help us put into focus what our dreams are and to take the steps necessary to manifest them.
Vital. We need to love and live with it. with all ourselves. Yes. Jupiter. Now, Jupiter and Saturn, again, Jupiter is the largest planet. It's a gas planet, such as Saturn. And it grows. Anything, it's the opposite of the Saturnian idea of the core, basic. It's contraction and expansion. And as we know, when they meet every 20 years, such as they did at the very end of 2020, at December 20th, 21st in 2020, in Aquarius, 0 degrees Aquarius, which is really a throwback to that time. There's been so much. It's like recentering from there in air. But here, Jupiter expands anything it touches. So half the year is going to be in Gemini, which gets along with all the other air, Aquarius. But second half of the year is going into Cancer for another year.
Right. What provides us safety and security? Where do I feel comfortable and nurturing? And what is family to me? Is it my family of origin, or is it the family I choose to be around, my friends, my groups, etc.?
Yes. And it really will, this particular time that we're experiencing with the Mars retrograde, we're in Leo right now, just about 5 degrees. It was at 6, and it's going to go back to 0. And then, of course, enter Cancer all the way back to 17 degrees, meaning that is also about the safety and structure of our actions. So here, we will very likely, as during this time, Mars is going to be ramping right through all the signs, going from, continuing on through the zodiac, as we had said, but another perhaps flashback into remembering on a grand scale that safety, what is secure and safe, and our tribe, as you mentioned, the freedom to.
And it would be a good time if you want to improve your diet, because the nutrition to feed and support your body, this Jupiter can really help make those changes bigger and better, and maybe faster a little bit too.
And how we nurture, Cancer is so nurturing. It really is. It cares about the immediate.
And there's to go on, when you said that Jupiter and Saturn made a conjunction in 2020, this year ending up of 2024 going into 2025, Jupiter and Saturn have some squares. So it's like readjusting whatever you set into motion the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So what are those adjustments?
Good point. I know for Talk Cosmos, we started YouTube. You were one of the first shows. And in fact, I think yes, indeed, at the end of December there. And now I'm expanding into another radio and down in Southern California. I mean, I'm online, but the fact is there's an audience. So we have a northern audience in Washington and a southern audience in the LA area, Palm Springs. And it's 2 days later, and we haven't quite ventured into new programs for that. It's a repeat, but who knows how that'll expand. It might be that we'll add new conversations, just as an example.
Exactly. It can grow.
And here are those beautiful squares that you brought up, and it will be with Jupiter in Gemini. Is that August 25? I think that should have been 24, Liz. I think you should.
Yes, I believe so. So
yeah, that was you meant to put 24 because this was the past year where it came from. Sorry, folks. But for this coming year, it's going to be next summer. It'll be at 1 in Cancer. That water and fire again is going to be steaming and making life. And then it trines exactly the following year. So that's where it flows. And trines want to flow. We'll move on. We have a few more things. We can go back. Is something you wanted to say about that, Liz, more?
No, it's good to go on to Uranus and Gemini.
Yes, in July on the 7th. In fact, I think that's, yes, right, close to our friend's birthday. And it
Yes.
will be again be on November 8th, 2025. And then next April, it will stay in Gemini. And that's a 7-year transit until May 22nd, 2023.
So with the Uranus moving to Gemini, because Uranus is sudden, unexpected change, and it's been in Taurus, so, around our financial system, our values, moving into Gemini later in the year for part of the year, and then the next year of 2026, there could be how we communicate. There could be some big changes in computers, cell phones, how we watch TV, all kinds of ingenious, to me, that's just genius. And how Talk Cosmos may grow and how astrology may grow. It's infinite possibilities, I think.
Mind-boggling to even open up, although of course we have, and I have too, and I'll suggest a couple of thoughts that come to mind. One reminder is the whole idea of Uranus. It is such a unique planet that it spins backwards, and it also rotates on its side. So its entire axis isn't north-south, it's east and west. It's absolutely a unique planet there, way as the far out. And it's a collective planet. It's really, when you think of from Pisces, which the nodes are going to be in, of the collective unconscious is some of the identity that it's given, because if we think of the oneness of the world, it just operates. It isn't something that we manifest and direct. There is the matrix of spirit coming, the source of all coming into the Piscean thinking, which makes it forgiving and compassionate and empathetic and all of these things. But in Uranus, it naturally rules Aquarius, but it's a collective sign, and it's conscious. It's humanity elevating itself, that whole concept.
Yes.
So
and
we're networking.
And Gemini, Uranus and Gemini will be trine to Pluto and Aquarius. So they'll be working in unison to accomplish things and bring things about. Could be secret technologies coming to the surface. It's like somebody's hidden it and didn't want to let us know about it. And now it's like a big surprise at this new technology. I would say that there'll be advancements in medical procedures, maybe. That could be one thing. Things, people writing books. I mean, communication is big.
It's very true. Both are air signs, and they are of the mentality aspect. Mercury, of course, whenever it goes retrograde, whatever it does, is going to be very important throughout those times. And of course, it will shift throughout the 7 years because the nodes shift, what we're coming from and where we're going. The other planets, Jupiter, every year changes. I mean, the outer planets, change a bit. Saturn, every 2.5, 3 years will change. So we will have different dynamics to help us evolve. However, and I hope really with Pisces, what a beautiful way to begin, because it does bring in the soul to keep that mentality tethered, to us as people.
Well, and I would say, like, kind of a recap, that since that Aries point, world point is going to be activated quite a bit in 2025, that it's resetting our soul path for everybody. And it's a lot about change. There's a lot about much change coming in 2025. And some will stick and some won't, but then we'll readjust if necessary and move forward.
With new identity. I think really that does correlate with both Neptune and Saturn, giving us that chance, because we had Chiron and Uranus in Aries, but each planet has another consciousness that we reflect. I mean, in the Hermetic code, as above, so below, there is a correlation.
Absolutely.
I know.
This has been great. And so it's like, welcome to 2025 as we slide in.
It is. It's welcoming and really remembering all the premises of change, which is feeling it, having gratitude. It is a good reminder to make a little step along the path. Yes. Well, thank you for this special forecast, Elizabeth Liz.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure to be here and join you from time to time or each month. So I enjoy it.
Year, it won't be until the end of the month. So there'll be a little bit of a break here, but you have a wonderful holiday and a good new year and everybody else. And we will see you with Talk Cosmos next week with the winter vibrations. Blessings, Liz. I'll be in touch.
Oh, thank you. Gratitude.
And blessings to all. Thank you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.